Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, March 6th, 2026. I'm Ed Kabik, November 2, Echo Charlie. In the log this week, we've got a contest spotlight for the ARRL International DX Contest, this time on single sideband. Also, we got a Bouvet Island 3Y0K DXpedition update. Yaesu radio prices are about to increase. We'll also talk about the very podcast you're listening to, Amateur Radio News and Notes, which is celebrating its first year as a podcast. Also, we'll do an MVARC breakfast and meeting recap. Also look at some MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and take a look at interesting online radio content. As always, links to all the reference content can be found in the show notes or at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. This weekend brings one of the biggest DX contests on the air, the ARRL International DX Contest, this time on single sideband. There's so much DX that it may even be possible to get a DXCC, that's 100 countries, in a weekend. If you like working DX, this is a great time to get on the air. The contest starts at 0 UTC on Sunday, March 7th. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday night, and continues through 23:59 UTC Sunday, March 8th. That's 6:59 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday. To participate, DX stations can only work the U.S. and Canadian stations. So this means this is a contest where the DX is chasing you. The exchange for the contest on the U.S. and Canada side of things is to send a signal report and a state or province. DX stations send a signal report and the power as a number or abbreviation. So for me in Virginia, my exchange would be 59VA or 59 Victor Alpha. Bands are 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters. And the power classifications are QRP for 5 watts and below, LP, or low power, for 5 watts to 100 watts, and HP, or high power, for up to 1,500 watts. You can work stations once per band, and each QSO is worth 3 points. For US and Canada, multipliers are each DXCC entity once per band, and for DX, it is the state or province, including DC, once per band. The total score is the QSO points times the multipliers. Logs need to be submitted within 7 days of the end of the contest. Full rules and details can be found at arrl.org/ARRL-DX. Good luck. The highly anticipated 3Y0K DXpedition to Bouvet Island was able to land on Bouvet and logged its first QSO on March 1st, 2026. The latest log upload at press time was from March 5th, where they reported a total of 24,180 QSOs, with 5,721 on CW, 13,558 on FT8, and 4,901 on single sideband. North America received 17.6% of the QSOs, while Europe got 42.5%, Asia got 31%, Africa got 1.3%, Oceania got 1.9%, and South America got 5.6%, with the rest being, quote, not determined. In all, the team had made contact with 131 DXCC entities, and the percentage of duplicate contacts was 3.28%. You can see if you're in the log and see the latest posted statistics at a link in the show notes. In an update from DXpedition pilot James, KB2FMH, on the 3rd, he said that both camps had been established with 8 tents in total. One of the camps is situated to maximize conditions towards North America. At that time, they had 10 ICOM 7610 radios and 10 assorted ACOM amplifiers with antennas on all bands but 10 meters. He expected the 10-meter antennas to go up on the 4th, and looking at the logs, it looks like that was successful. The operation is expected to continue until March 18th or the 20th. Your author has not yet been successful getting in the logs, and pileups have been intense. Sadly, there has been significant deliberate interference, or DQRM, so far, with stations keying up over the Bouvet station and trying to make it difficult to contact them. As a reminder, for CW and single sideband, the DXpedition, like most DXpeditions, will be working split. This means that the team is transmitting on one frequency and will be looking above their frequency for replies. Do not transmit on the same frequency you hear them on, as they won't be listening on that frequency, and you will be making it very difficult for others to be able to hear the station in Bouvet. It's important to operate in a courteous manner so that as many operators as possible can participate in the fun. together. More information on the band plan and operating details of the DXpedition can be found on their official site. Good luck. In a post to their website dated March 3rd, Yaesu distributor Gigaparts announced that they had received new wholesale pricing increases from Yaesu for their North American products, effective March 1st. As part of those changes, Gigaparts expects prices to rise for consumers with the next shipments they receive from 4% to 58% for some products. Gigaparts says that existing stock will remain at the current prices until stocks are depleted, at which time the new shipments will be priced according to the new rates. They cite rising material and manufacturing costs, updated tariffs, and volatility in logistics and operations as bringing on these costs. They also report that previous increases have been absorbed by them in the past, but the new increases no longer make that possible. At press time, we didn't see other retailers referencing these changes, but prices between the retailers is usually the same. Gigapart's full statement can be found at a link in the show notes. With today's episode, Amateur Radio News and Notes celebrates a year of keeping you up to date with amateur radio in podcast form. We sent out our first podcast version on March 7th, 2025, and a year later, this is our 50th episode. It has been a lot of fun to see things grow each week, and we're honored that you have taken the time to make us part of your weekly routine. In addition to distributing the podcast online, we're delighted to be broadcast each week by 88.3 FM KRHJ in Lamar, Colorado, at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Fridays. Before it was in podcast form, Amateur Radio News and Notes started as a weekly newsletter on February 23rd, 2024, sent out to the members of the Mount Vernon Amateur Radio Club. Shortly thereafter, we started posting it on our Substack, and things started growing from there. It's been a fun 2 years with lots of fun events and developments in amateur radio along the way. We really are glad you're here. If you find anything of interest you think it would be good to share here, or have any feedback about what you like or what can be improved, feel free to reach out. I'm good on QRZ. And now a quick MVARC breakfast and meeting recap. Last Saturday, the Mount Vernon Amateur Radio Club got together for our weekly breakfast at the IHOP in Hybla Valley. After breakfast, we made it over to our in-person meeting where we had an introduction to the club's new Discord server. It was great seeing everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again this month. Now let's take a quick look at MVARC Nets on the air. Our 2-meter FM net is Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on the repeater. That is immediately followed by our 2-meter digital net on the same frequency. And then on the weekends, we've got the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable Saturday and Sunday, 7:30 a.m. at 3.565 megahertz on CW. And the MVARC Cherry Tree net is Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time at 3.920 megahertz lower sideband, where we always have a great conversation, and you're always welcome to join us. And now let's take a look at what is happening with DX. You know, as you'd expect, it's a big DX contest weekend, so there's a lot of DX on the air this week. Stations on the air include Bouvet Island, Bonaire, Guam, Dominica, Guinea-Bissau, Austral Islands, Gambia, Palau, Mayotte, Anguilla, Ghana, St. Martin, Bangladesh, Minami-Torishima, Colombia, and Solomon Islands. A calendar of DXpeditions can be found at dxnews.com/calendar. Now it's time for a solar activity update. As we press, the Solar Flux Index, or SFI, was 146, and the estimated sunspot number was 73, with 5 numbered sunspot regions visible from Earth. Over the last week, the SFI has increased. Solar activity has been at low levels in the last 24 hours. The geomagnetic field has been at quiet levels, and the KP index reached 2 yesterday. The solar wind peaked at 456 kilometers per second. Solar activity is predicted to be at low levels with a chance of M-class flares today through Sunday. The geomagnetic field is forecast to be at quiet to minor storm levels today and at quiet to active levels on Saturday and Sunday. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is at 1% today through Sunday. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are possible in the near term with a predicted probability of 20% today through Sunday. R3 or greater blackouts are unlikely with a 1% chance predicted today through Sunday. It remains a fantastic time for amateurs to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see dealer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page. And to see maximum usable frequency, or MUF, and critical frequency, or FOF2 information from Radio Sun data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's take a look at some upcoming contests. This weekend brings the ARRL International DX Contest on SSB we mentioned earlier, as well as the Novice Rig Roundup, the Wake Up QRP Sprint, the Russian YLOM Contest, the UBA Spring Contest on CW, the FIRAC HF Contest, the Classic Exchange on CW, and the 4 States QRP Second Sunday Sprint. As always, the K1USN SSTs, MSTs, and CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. And finally, let's wrap things up with some interesting online radio content. As always, the links that we're going to be talking about here are in the show notes and at our Substack at mvarc.substack.com. The ICQ podcast interviews former ARRL Atlantic Director Bob Famiglio, K3RF, about Bylaw 46. This one is a must-listen. Hadrian, YO2BTW, shares video recorded by Chun at Bouvet during the DXpedition. You're going to get an idea of just how logistically difficult this thing is. Wow, it's amazing over there. Lewis, M3HHY, talks about strange FSK signals plaguing the 40-meter band and other shortwave disturbances. I've been hearing this every night on the 40-meter band this week. Adam K6ARK does Soda by Motorcycle. Stuart VE9 Charlie Fox does a quick intro to N1MM for contest logging. Josh KI6NAZ shows us his Orlando Hamcation haul. Jason KM4ACK upgrades the battery in an MCOM trailer. Ara N6ARA shows us how he manufactures the tiny Gawant antenna kits. Michael KB9VBR talks about air travel with lithium batteries. Lewis M3HHY talks about Iran using bubble jammers to block shortwave signals. Mike K8MRD shows the K5ACP Mali BNC antenna clip. Colin MM0OPX talks about how to tune a ground-mounted vertical properly. Alan W2AEW shows how to update the firmware for the SV4401A handheld VNA. Linus Lima Yankee 2 Hotel takes a look at HF whip antennas to see how good they are. Sean W9FFF shows his POTA Pounder antenna mount. George VK2AOE shows part 3 of his homebrew QRP 40-meter transceiver build. And Mike KMRD trades his Yaesu FTX1F for an ICOM 7300 Mark II. And he explains why. That's it for this week. I've been Ed, November 2 Echo Charlie. Thanks, as always, for joining us. We hope you have a great week ahead. Best 73, and we look forward to seeing you next week.